You're watching Inside the Zone.
He is Justin Kinney, I'm Glenn Marini, and somehow we've made it all the way to Week 10, and somehow we've made it all the way to sectionals. I mean, time flies when you're having fun, as they say.
Yes.
This has been a weird season because I don't want to jinx it, because I know there could be some showers possible on Friday, but maybe it's because the weather has been so abnormally nice. Like, there hasn't even been a precipitation at all on Friday night, but this season has gone by in a flash.
Yes, it has, and now we're doomed for every week of all the way up to state finals to have terrible weather on Friday. Thanks a lot, Glenn Marini. But no, we've been extremely lucky with the weather and extremely lucky for a really good regular season of football in this area. Some things that happened that we expected, some not so expected, and here we are now where if you don't come with the juice, as they say every Friday, you're going home.
Well, you always come with the juice, and it's sort of a problem. It's actually why we have to edit the show.
It's right off camera.
But when we talk a little bit about the regular season, you said it's kind of been a weird season. We've had some surprises. Looking back on the regular season, what's the one thing that surprised you perhaps the most, or the team perhaps that surprised you the most?
I had this debate over the weekend on what was more surprising in the SAC, was Northrop's rise or Snyder's fall. And I think it has to be Snyder. I feel this is just unprecedented what we've seen out of the Panthers, not only because of the difficulty they've had over the course of the season, but just the lopsided scores they have. But that said, if you overlook Snyder, they can come back and bite you, as we saw Northside give up a 17-point lead on Friday.
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, I was at that game, and it was 20-3, and I was like, all right, this ball game is over. I'm sure Northside was thinking the same thing as well, but kudos to Snyder, and that is the kind of momentum you would have loved to have if you're Kurt Tittman heading into the bye week and then heading into the playoffs. So 5A has buys, 6A has buys, 4A through 1A. We're going to start talking about that in a minute, but before we look forward, I want to look back. Game of the week, if you were talking about surprises on the season, it might be the DeKalb Barons as one of the biggest surprises. They take on the Leo Lions, and it was everything you could ask for in a high school football game. It comes down to the final kick, and I mean, this was Leo playing without Nathan Foster was obviously huge, but credit to the DeKalb Barons for just the attitude surrounding this program. I mean, they are excited about football in Waterloo. We haven't kind of seen this excitement to this level in quite some time when it comes to the DeKalb Baron football program. Yeah,
Coach Ryan Robertson's done a phenomenal job in year one, and his assistants as well. And you put a sophomore out there in Riker Ball to make the game-winning field goal with just a couple minutes left, or a couple seconds left. This was a kid that was a soccer player first and foremost, and comes out, was the backup kicker, then got the nod to be the starting kicker, has made all 3 of his field goal attempts this year. So, yeah, you could say there's an asterisk maybe without Nathan Foster playing, but what DeKalb was able to do was very impressive, culminates a really impressive regular season for them.
I was thinking about this earlier in the day, this question to you. Last year we saw Huntington North go from kind of middle of the pack to lower NE8 to conference championship contender, and we saw them win a sectional title for the first time in 1993. What are the similarities maybe between what we saw with Huntington North last year and what we've seen with DeKalb this year? Like what are the commonalities between these two teams that allow a program to take a jump like we have seen when it maybe wasn't predicted from anybody on the outside?
I think it's skill position guys. I really, and off-season work. I think both Huntington North last year and DeKalb this year really put in a lot of work over the summer and in the off-season, particularly up front for Huntington North. We saw that pay off last year. And then you look at just the guys that DeKalb's been able to employ this year. Eli McCormick has really gotten more and more comfortable throughout the year at quarterback. They have some playmakers as well, but they're also young too with DeKalb. So I think it's a lot of that off-season work. It's cliche, but if you're not, if you're not putting the work in the summer, it doesn't matter what you're doing on Fridays in the fall. And I think we've seen DeKalb maybe double down. Numbers are up. I think commitment is up. We saw that at Huntington North last year. DeKalb has the same thing this year.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I mic'd up Ryan Robertson a few weeks ago before the Norwell game, and he said one of the things that he wanted to do was be on the same page with the baseball coach and the basketball coach. They need, at a school like DeKalb, they need one sport athletes to be playing two sports. They need two sport athletes to be playing three sports, and that requires a sort of communication and a synergy within the athletic department. And he feels like they had that. They had some guys on the offensive line, big dudes that had never played football before, you know, or maybe hadn't played in a few years. So it's nice to see guys that they've always had success, you know, in baseball. They've had success intermittently in basketball, dating back to forever, the Luke Record days. But you know, it's nice to see guys that are, you know, maybe on the fence about, should I play two sports? Should I play three sports? They're getting those guys now, and it's making a difference across the board, and it'll make a difference continually, I would think, during the basketball and the baseball seasons.
Absolutely.
Wrestling as well.
Yeah, we always think about 1A, 2A as that being very important, right? But it is very important in 3A and 4A as well. And maybe some of the programs that have struggled, you look at, okay, how can the sports work better together to make sure winter athletes are also playing football, or fall athletes and spring athletes, and maybe your football athletes are running track in the spring, right, to get ready and stay refined for the fall. So that kind of working together, get everybody in the same room, and how can we complement each other is very important, particularly at the lower classes, but even in classes like 4A.
We're better together, Justin. We're just all better together.
Shucks.
So we had a chance to chat with the DeKalb Barons after the game. Riker Ball kicking that field goal for DeKalb to win it 31-28. First win by the Barons against Leo in DeKalb football history. And here's what the Barons had to say after Friday night's victory.
Man, I've committed most of my life to being the best man that I can be and to compete at such a high level for these guys and for my teammates who I've been playing with since we were 5 years old. And to win tonight in this fashion, it's such a blessing, such a blessing.
And the defense grabbed a big interception on the first drive. How did that propel the game?
That momentum is huge. It's huge. I mean, when you got something like that goes your way, it helps more things go your way. And shout out Drake for stepping up and making the big play to start the game.
And how did this team stay composed during a back-and-forth game?
It's in our heart. We've been doing this for a long time, and we're giving it all we got. So that composure was more of a will to win that we've been harboring and wanting to show, and we got the chance to do it in the close game. So.
And how do you build off this game heading into sectionals next week?
Well, all that matters is if you win the last one. So we're going to try to win every one we can, game by game, starting with Columbia City and sectional right here on the home field. Hopefully we'll be playing on the home field for sectional championship too. So.
It was a good win. Leo's a great team. We came out here and put it to them, and for sure it took all of us, but we got the job done.
Good. The defense grabbed a big interception at the beginning of the game. How did that propel the game?
Oh, for sure. That definitely changed the outcome of the game. I mean, we have a really, really, really solid D, and we also really solid O. So once we got that pick, I knew it was over. I knew that we were running out the clock and kicking a field goal, scoring a touchdown, and then putting them on D.
How did this team stay composed during a back-and-forth game?
We have a lot of level-headed minds, and we have a lot of seniors. We're senior heavy. We are upperclassmen heavy for sure. So, I mean, it's our last year, so we do what we can to win.
That's good. How are you planning on building off this game heading into sectionals next week?
All right. Well, we haven't beat this team in 15 years, so it's a big win for us, and we're going to go in sectionals hot.
All right. How big was tonight's win against Leo?
It's massive. It's something that we've never done as a program. 10 years, 12 games, never once had a win against Leo. So just showing our kids that we can compete with top of the NEA, yeah, it's a massive win for us.
And the defense grabbed an interception at the Leo's first drive. How did that change the momentum of the game?
What we preach defensively is just let us defend another blade of grass. If teams drive the field, it's not the end of the world. It's what can you do to make sure they don't put points on the board. So we are a bend, don't break defense, and with our backs against the wall, the field gets smaller, everything gets shorter. Mistakes can happen, so just keep your head in it, keep focused, and yeah, we got a big stop there on that first drive.
And how did the team stay composed during a back and forth game?
I mean, you saw it. We went down to tie the game, they got a stop, and then went down to win the game, and that's a spot that we've never been in before. So it's uncharted territory for a team like this, and just to be able to have The composure, you don't know if they're going to have that composure. You try to practice it. It's hard to emulate in practice. You don't know until you put yourself in a football game like this.
And how will you build off this heading into sectionals next week?
You just put everything in the seniors' hands, man. Now it's win or go home, and you just live and die with the seniors. Just put everything in their hands, walk out there and play football, and do everything for them.
I now have a bad case of beard envy.
How are you?
Putting some Rogaine on the old beard this
I was thinking
week.
about it. Like a couple of days, it gets itchy. Like I couldn't imagine like getting past the itchy phase to put something like that together.
Like, what is it like in COVID when you had to wear a mask or like a neck
hanging
gaiter
out,
and all
you know?
that stuff? Like, that's a lot of work, man. Let's talk about, he alluded to the postseason, and the first thing we're going to look at is sectional 4A19. This is a good one. How do you see this one playing out? Because our game of the week is going to come out of here. You got Bishop Dwenger traveling to Leo, and what should be a good one?
It should. You know, you look at how this could lay out. DeKalb's in that sectional, right? East Noble, of course, undefeated. Whoever wins this thing is definitely going to earn it across multiple rounds. And East Noble maybe kind of got that best draw because they're up at the top. Everybody else kind of has to beat up on each other. But looking at Leo and Bishop Dwenger, I think the big question for me is for Leo, even with Nathan Foster, can they score enough against Bishop Dwenger? That defense is just so tremendously good. Leo has to keep Bishop Dwenger this game low scoring, but two, can they move the ball against Bishop Dwenger? It's a big question.
Yeah, and Bishop Dwenger, as you mentioned, defense first. I know that they were challenged by, Southside putting another safety, moving the safety down to the box last week. They said it before the game, hey, they're going to try to make us throw the football. That's going to be the MO of teams throughout the course of the postseason. At this point, there aren't that many surprises. People have seen you enough on tape. They know your tendencies. So if you're that Bishop Dwenger offense going against that Leo defense, what are some of the things that you want to see from the Bishop Dwenger offense heading into a game like this where they scored 28 points against the Southside team? And I was there in the first half of that game. It wasn't as crisp as you would have liked. So they're certainly going to have some things to work on this week, but they have playmakers on the Bishop Dwenger offense.
Yeah.
They just need to make sure they get them the ball, I guess, is the biggest thing for them in space.
Physicality up front is first and foremost, and then Henry Jordan taking advantage of opportunities. That passing game, capitalizing when it has opportunities. The bread and butter is always going to be the run game, Bishop Dwenger, of course, even this year. But to make a deep run in the playoffs, and if you look kind of ahead, if they're going to beat the likes of DeKalb and even East Noble, that passing game needs to make some plays, and it starts this week against Leo.
And when you take a look at Leo, what do they need to do? We saw Titus Stoller as the season has come on with Nathan Foster out. I think we've seen the maturation process. I know at the beginning of the season we talked about Jason Dorfler wanted to go with an older guy at the quarterback position to have that experience, to not get rattled. Now you've got a whole season of being the starting quarterback for a quality football team under your belt. How key is it for the quarterback to be able to play well against Leo if perhaps the run game isn't as effective as it's been in the past based on the defense, based on the injuries? Because Leo, without Nathan Foster, we saw a freshman step up last week and play pretty well. But you feel a lot better if you had a guy who rushed for 1,800 yards and was top 5 in the state in rushing heading into last week.
If anything, last week gave Titus Stoller a bit of a taste of having to play a quality opponent without Nathan Foster there to just turn and hand off to, right? So you feel like the defense of Bishop Dwenger is a greater challenge than DeKalb is, but at the same time, the senior leadership of Titus Stoller and that comfort that maybe he developed last week, knowing now he does have Nathan Foster back, at least what we expect on Friday, and then maybe feels a little bit more confident going vertically when they have to. But both of these teams are at their best when they can move the ball on the ground and strike when opportunity strikes in the passing game. And we'll see which defense is able to maybe put the other offense behind the chain, some third and longs, some fourth and longs, things like that.
And whoever wins our game of the week will have to face either DeKalb or Columbia City. I think DeKalb-Columbia City is kind of a sneaky quality game when it comes to sectional 19. Everybody looking at East Noble, everybody looking at Leo versus Bishop Dwenger. But, DeKalb in there, taking on, a pretty solid Columbia City team that at times has really run the football well.
Yeah.
Trace Parrish did it again last week. He did it against Northwood in week 1. How do you see this one playing out? Because DeKalb's obviously riding high, but you don't want to be overconfident going into a game like this.
And it's a different situation for DeKalb because they're not used to having this this positive of vibes heading into the playoffs, right, in recent history. Columbia City has been there, maybe with different personnel, but they've been there and know how to coach it up and get ready for games like this in the sectional. So how does DeKalb play it where they have a target on them? You know, talking to one of their coaches over the weekends, like, man, we just love being that underdog and flying under the radar. We're not doing that anymore. So how does DeKalb react now, being expected to win as opposed to surprising people when they win?
All right, let's take a look at 3A Sectional 26. A lot of local teams in this sectional. And, boy, you take a look at the records, and Tippecanoe Valley is right up there with one of the best records in the sectional. But Concordia versus West Noble. Concordia, we know, went 0 for the regular season, but did play an SAC schedule. They've played against good competition. West Noble, we've seen what Monty Mayhorter has been able to do the last 30 years
Right.
At West Noble, but specifically this season with a number of guys that can do it on the offensive side, led by quarterback Trey Schischler. How do you see this sectional playing out? Because there are some good matchups in there. I kind of like that Angola-Tippecanoe Valley game, much like the DeKalb-Columbia City game. As you look in there and you say, that could be a pretty good game. Tippecanoe Valley with a big win against Bremen last week. We don't know that much about them because we don't get to see them every week playing in the conference that they do. But they finished second in the conference, and every year Steve Moriarty has a good football team out there. And it seems like Angola's played some pretty good football despite the loss 33-28 to Eastside last week.
They were in that game from beginning to end against Eastside, and Hawk Hasselman, they're really going to miss that kid when he graduates this year, because he scored all 4 touchdowns for Angola on Friday night. He's just a phenomenal athlete in all 3 facets of the game. How can Angola give Hasselman the help against a really good team in Tippecanoe Valley? I think that's a big question. And you look also at West Noble, still chasing that first sectional championship, right? Fell 1 point short last year against Garrett in the sectional championship. Could this be the year that the Chargers get over the hump? They'll have to deal with Tippecanoe Valley potentially in that second round if both are able to win on Friday.
Yeah, you look at West Noble and the Tippy Valley Angola game on the bottom of the bracket, but on the top half of the bracket, the records maybe aren't all that impressive. And if you're Garrett, you're like, okay, this is the time we can turn it on. Like, we know what it takes in the postseason, albeit a different cast of characters than what we saw last year, who made it to semi-state in 3A. But Garrett at Fairfield, they beat them 28-7, actually beat Lakeland 28-7 in week 4. If Garrett can beat Fairfield and take on Lakeland in the second round, again, that's another sneaky good ball game where on the surface, a lot of people might think Lakeland with their quarterback, but maybe Garrett is gearing up for a postseason run. And you know, when West Noble plays Garrett, if that were to happen in this sectional, anything can happen when those two teams get involved.
The NECC has been weird. I mean, you've had Busco and West Noble kind of up there all season, and then there's like 5 or 6 teams that you just kind of throw in there with like Angola and Eastside and West Noble's at the top of them, Fairfield and teams like that, Lakeland, and it's just like, I don't know.
Fremont's in there too.
Fremont in there, Garrett. I mean, there's all these teams who are just like any week, no score is surprising with them, win or lose. So yeah, that top of the bracket is going to be really interesting, and Garrett wants to make it back-to-back this year if they can. They kind of took their lumps in the regular season, but finishing how they finished, scoring the most points in a game since 1919 on Friday, definitely gives you some momentum heading into the postseason. I know Central Noble has struggled, but that offense of Garrett has struggled this year too. So have a performance like that's really a positive sign for the Railroaders.
Okay, let's talk some more 3A, but go to Sectional 28. And when you talk about 3A Sectional 28 in the first round, to me, the game that jumps out is Lures going down to Delta in the suburbs, if you will, of Muncie, Indiana. You take a look at Bishop Lures, man, they go 4-5 in the regular season. Weren't sure exactly what we were going to get on a week-to-week basis, but we're in the postseason, and it's Bishop Lures. Should we just assume that these guys start rolling?
Yeah, we've seen so many teams that, Lures teams that have gone 4-5, 5-4, and then they just start blazing through 2A and now 3A, and they are capable of doing it, particularly with the size that they have on offense and defense. I want to see more consistency out of that offense to feel like they can make a run in 3A this year. I think that defense is going to keep them in a lot of games, particularly against Delta, but they're going to have to strike vertically at times in the postseason to make a traditional Lures run. We've seen signs here or there, whether it's Tommy Reichert or Knox Johnson, but consistently Can they have that vertical threat and really keep defenses honest? The first test is a big one going down to Delta.
You know, it's not Indianapolis. You know, you get about an hour plus on this trip. But does that concern you at all? This is definitely going to be the furthest game you're talking about for Bishop Luers in this sectional. So does that concern you at all, since it's a new group of guys? You mentioned sophomores, like how they, you know, make themselves keep their minds in the game when you have a road trip like that. Like, you never know how 14 to 18-year-olds are going to react, and especially with a young team. Like, how do you make sure that these guys are focused and ready with a road trip like this?
Well, that's the goal of that coaching staff this week, is to make sure those underclassmen are ready. You have a decent-sized senior class. That junior class only has about a half dozen, 7 guys in it. So you're going to rely on predominantly seniors and sophomores in this game. You just got to make sure those seniors are locked in, and they'll make sure the sophomores are locked in. But behind center, right, first start, whoever it is, Knox or Tommy, making their first start behind center in a playoff game on the road against a good team in Delta, that's going to be a tough challenge.
Let's transition to 2A, and in our local sectional for 2A, in sectional 35, we're talking about Bluffton at Churubusco. It's a game that we got a lot of excitement about this one. Some people online were wanting us to make this our game of the week. It has game of the week type considerations, but when you take a look at Bluffton at Churubusco this week, the winner would likely get Adams Central, so there is a lot of tough teams in this sectional. How do you see this one playing out in Turtletown? Obviously, we saw, you know, Busco win their second straight NECC small division title and then beat the big division title winner, West Noble, by 1 point. So they've been in some really quality ball games. They did it against Eastside, 17-14. Like, they've come out victorious when they've been tested against good teams. How do you see this one playing out?
I don't want to say that Churubusco wins ugly, because they've had some really good, you know, going on the road and shutting out Fairfield on Friday was really surprising to me, because it was sandwiched into between those big games, West Noble and Bluffton. My big question with Churubusco is being able to match up with the playmakers of Bluffton, particularly vertically. Can they get pressure on Axton Best? Can they cover A.J. Strevler and Cooper Craig and these guys downfield, right? What about Kamel Moore, you know, that off back for Bluffton that has really been so dynamic in recent weeks? That's the big question for Churubusco. If the Eagles can keep this game between the hashes and just make Bluffton grind it out and really get to Axton Best and affect him, then Churubusco has a shot. But they have to make this game as physical and low scoring as possible.
If you're Bluffton, how much are you champing at the bit to get another chance at Adams Central? Like, you're not overlooking Busco,
right?
But like, you want another chance at Adams Central, because 47-17, you know, in your camp, if you're Coach Kunks and those guys, that is not indicative of the level that Bluffton plays at.
Yes, definitely, and they've talked about that too. In talking to Coach Kunks, it's like, look, Adams Central played tremendous in that game, but we missed assignments and, you know, just missed blocks and should have done this and penalties and all that stuff. They didn't feel like they put their best step forward against Adams Central. And to beat the Flying Jets, you have to. So Bluffton is definitely looking to round 2, but it's a tough road trip. If you come out and you're sluggish and you put the ball on the ground a couple times and you let Churubusco hang around and play ball control, which is what Churubusco is going to try to do, then they can keep this game in the teens and maybe steal one towards the end. So Bluffton needs to come out and really instill its will offensively early. Don't let Churubusco hang around.
We talk about the bottom half of this bracket in sectional 2A 35, but Whitco at Eastside and then Prairie Heights at Manchester. With Manchester and with Eastside, these are two really good football teams. Like, we're all talking about the bottom half, but those two teams are both pretty quality on the top half. They could meet in the second round. Like, if it was Eastside versus Manchester, and then Adams Central versus either Bluffton or Churubusco, like, that's a really good 2A sectional if you look across the entire state of Indiana.
Yeah, absolutely. And what Eastside's been able to do, and yeah, it fell short in winning the small division in the NECC, but Joe Richmond's been as good in terms of a most valuable player as anybody in this area. Over 2,000 total yards in the regular season, and you feel like Eastside is good enough and dangerous enough to win a couple games and be and emerge in the final from that top part of the bracket. So Eastside Manchester 2 is going to be really interesting because that's a team that's not traditionally we look at as saying a threat in sectional play, but they definitely could, at least in that top half.
Yeah, I think they ended up finishing third in the TRC, but that was, Rochester was pretty darn impressive.
Zebras were impressive this year,
Last
weren't they?
Friday night, I was like, when I saw that score, it was 48-6 against Mechaniqua, essentially for the conference championship, and impressive win from the Zebras. We don't, not really in our area, but you still take an ancillary look at everything going on in this half of the state, especially for this time of the postseason. Let's talk a little bit about 1A football and Sectional 44. We've got South Adams there. You see the third matchup on the screen. That's the game I want to talk about when you take a look at this sectional. You see Monroe Central there on the top half. We've seen so many South Adams versus Monroe Central. Really good games over the last 8 to 9 years. Westdale versus Tri on the bottom. But South Adams Finally, they answered the call. They got in the top 10 poll for the IFCA in 1A this week. The coaches have finally come around. This is a South Adams team that we talk about Titus Lehman, we talk about Derek McCain, but the stud is Wesley Somerset at the receiver position, and now everybody's taken notice of it. Thank you very much. Grant Mosher can go ahead and write and send the check here to the studio because we've been beating the drum for this South Adams team all season. How do you see this one playing out? South Adams taking on a Madison Grant team. The Argyles, historically pretty decent, but South Adams will be favored in this one.
Yeah, between South Adams and Grant Mosher just making the wrong people mad in the coaches poll, and then all due respect to East Noble, #1 this week, that's great, but Chittard being dropped out after losing to Elder, which is a top 25 team in the country. But
apparently we don't respect Ohio in these polls.
Apparently, yeah. But speaking of Ohio with South Adams, right? Their 3 losses are to Marion Local and Adams Central and Bluffton. 3 teams a combined 26-1, and yet no respect for the South Adams Starfires. And I feel like they're the favorite in this sectional, I think by a significant margin. I mean, Madison Grant may be the biggest threat, and they have to go to Bern and take on South Adams.
I will try not to decrease your Nielsen ratings dramatically, but no guarantees. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Right now, the big concern is the video board. Ladies and gentlemen, we got the director of football operations doing a big back pedal right there. That's disappointing. You can go out there if you want.
All right.
Go on out, you bet. You can go on up to the box. I heard you graded last time.
Yeah.
Did you grade finish grades?
Yeah, we finished the grades.
Up there in the box?
Yeah.
Nice job. In all honesty, Glenn, I don't talk about chili and cinnamon rolls too often. It's kind of a you-me thing. So yeah, when I came here to Indiana, I didn't even realize that wasn't a thing. Chili and cinnamon rolls. It's a good deal. It was my school lunch for 9 years in a row, every Thursday or Friday. Indiana folks may have pizza every Friday, chili and cinnamon rolls in Nebraska. So good football, good food. What's up, Coach? Good. How are you? You guys have done a great job over there. You are by far the best 1-6 team I've ever seen. Is that small comfort? It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be, because truly, you guys are good. You got anyone you want to say hi to? Not really. Now's the time. Logan Narwhal Settle, ladies and gentlemen. He's avoiding the spotlight. All right, we're ready. We're going to get you back too. It's a great season. Nice job. You've done a great job for yourself. Congratulations, Mom.
Thank you.
I'm so happy that you sent your sons our way.
Hey, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
Dad.
you.
You bet. Oh, those are great shirts. All right, gentlemen, come take a knee. We talked about it last week, how I have had coaches talk to me about guys right there and just steadfastly refusing to make a play. Do it tonight. We might not have many left. Do it. But if you start making plays, we're going to have a lot more left. There's a correlation, you see. We do that, we're going to be in good shape. Seniors, this is your last game promised here at Zollner. We don't know what the draw is going to give us. Make the most of it. Everyone else, play hard for the seniors. Good? Seniors, bring them in.
Begs the question, where do you stand on chilies and cinnamon roll as a meal?
I'm sitting here going, that sounds pretty damn good, actually.
Together, though, it's like
together,
I
no,
like
but
them both separately, but together, I don't know.
We'll try it next week, live here.
We'll try anything once. So Going into this week, what are you most looking forward to about week 1 of the sectionals? Obviously, we don't have 5A or 6A. We'll talk about that quite a bit next week. But heading into this week, what are you looking for, especially from our area teams here in week 10 of the season?
You cannot have a single off night now. If you go out and are sluggish and make mistakes, your season could very well be over. So every Friday night, you have to show up with max effort and max execution. And the teams that do have a great chance of advancing. The teams that don't can talk about basketball, which is pretty depressing.
Well, I have an off night every Friday.
Yeah.
When I host the show afterwards.
And Mondays. I've never seen you on Mondays.
Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays aren't that good either. But we will be talking about this on a Monday. We'll wrap up the first week of the postseason and get ready for sectional semifinals next Monday here on Inside the Zone. But for now, he's Justin, I'm Glenn, and we'll see you next week.
You're watching Inside the Zone.